Good morning. Thank you for the chance that is given to me to present my research entitled Take Me Home, Hearing the Voice of Poetic Identity and Language Development in EFL Poetry Writing. So the aim of this research is to explore poetic identity in EFL poetry writing by EFL learners as to know their language development. So this research is a very unique research in which it is aimed to explore how the poet's identity is revealed through their poetry writing in EFL. So this is as to know their language development through poetry. Poetic identity is the representation of poetry as a language expression that serves as the representation of community sense. I would like to, maybe you have known this line, very famous line from William Shakespeare, to be or not to be, that is the question. And that is not only a line, but that is a meaningful line about how can we put meaning in our life. So poetry is really a representation of our life and captured in the arrangement of words, metaphor, and sometimes personification to make it more meaningful. So this is a definition by Ida about poetry. So the very meaning of poetry is that it is a means for writers to express themselves using a specific rhetoric. Yeah, it is stated by Ida in 2008. There are many elements of poetry here, lines, stanza, rhymes, rhythm, matter, figurative language, vision, and voice of the poetry. So all of those elements are very important in writing poetry, especially in EFL poetry, which is much more challenging because EFL learners are maybe facing difficulties in composing words into lines, lines into stanza, and then composing metaphors and figurative languages. But then here in this research, I'm going to explore how poetic identity in EFL poetry is revealed by the EFL learners. Yeah, this research is to explore the characteristic of poetic identity by the EFL poetry writers as to know their language development. There are 29 EFL learners in this study with their poetry that they write during the poetry course in the 2020 and 2021 academic year of English language education in Ganesha University, where this study is conducted. So the analysis is done through Hanauer's analysis of poetic identity, which involves the analysis of context of poetry, content of poetry, and linguistic analysis of the poetry itself. So here I'm going to show you some of the poetry which is studied or analyzed in this research. The first one is A Window in a Dream. What did I see in the window? No, maybe that's just my feeling, but there was a roar from outside the window. Who is that? I asked. Suddenly fell silent. When I opened the window, I witnessed a terrible incident. Someone who fell with a red liquid. I shouted stiff and as if I did not believe. I tried to scream but could not. I turned and I saw a black shadow. My eyes were open, but I was like a statue until I realized and woke up crying fear because of that. So the voice that we can sense from this poetry is the voice of the poet, which he is in a fearful condition, and there is a feeling of a little bit frightened, yeah, and a little bit of intimidation there, because the context built here is dark and what is it? with scary images. Yeah. So here the overall voice that we can sense here is fair, and overall linguistic style which is used here is denotation, because there is no metaphors that we can see here. Denotation because it is simple and it represents the real situation. So as you can see here, like, what did I see in the window? No, maybe that's just my feeling. It's very straightforward and denotation. So it shows what it means. Okay, next we are going to what is it? Look at the second poetry, injuries from injustice. Poor boy in a crowd of animals. What the animals did, nobody dared to help him. They just laughed and watched the incident, indeed very cruel and heartless. The animals kicked him from behind, flushed him harshly with cold water, held and locked him in the toilet. The boy shouted for help to escape from this prison. When open, the boy was pushed. He was injured and looked down as if red and blue were mixed, this scar and also hurt, hard to forget and erase. So from this poetry, we can sense the voice of sadness and unaccepted feeling in a society or community. And the poet uses metaphors and depersonification here because we can sense there are so many metaphors here, like what the animals did, nobody dared to help him. So animals here actually not animals, but maybe refer to a group of people or a group of society which do bad thing to the boy. And this is also a depersonification because a person is depersonified into animal, and we can sense that there is a sadness or unaccepted feeling that we can see from the poetry. Next is shut in. Behind the window, the ancestors walk in, shadow the past and future. I just freeze without moving or talk, without no one and nothing. I just freeze, staring at the water that fall from the deep sky. I keep freezing. Suddenly my body feels cold. My sight is far away. I try to finish the anxious. I suddenly realize that I could never finish. I keep freezing in the same place, thinking about the same thing to finish what I never could. So there is a voice of longing for something here. Yeah, like there is something is missing in the poet's mind and in the poet's feeling. Yeah, so like I just freeze, I keep freezing. That's the words used in the poetry. Why is the poet using longing, freezing and repeated? Because maybe she is longing for something. Yeah, something that has been missed for a long time. So yeah, thinking about the same thing, the same place to finish what I never could. So the overall voice here that we can sense is the longing for something, and the poet is using metaphors to represent the poetic identity through the poetry itself. And then here is the last one, Take Me Home, that becomes the title of this research actually. The old window runs toward its fate into a new house. I saw the color crease as did not want to go. I regret myself because I cannot lend my hand. Even my lips are locked by fear. I saw you deeply, hoping I can pick up you someday. Take me home, you said, to the real place, to be the real me, the place where all the memories started. Keep the memories in yourself, then I will remember you in a dusty corner of the house, a warm home that's getting colder since you're gone. This is also almost the same with the previous one, that is a feeling of longing for something, and the poet is using metaphor. So the poetic identity that we can capture from this poetry is that human is very near to the feeling of being lonely, or the feeling of being alone, longing for something to cheer him or her up. So that is the overall sense that we can get. So from those poetry, we can hear there is a voice of self-identity, like fear, like longing for something, like being lonely, yeah. And there is also voice of freedom there, and the freedom of speaking out the mind, yeah, thinking about what is happening actually, about the sadness, about the insecurity, and also longing for something, that is freedom to express all those feelings and all those things. And here we can understand that poetry is not just a tool to express something, but a language of reality which contains linguistic reality. So poetry is not just a tool to express something, once again, but it is a language of reality which contains linguistics reality. So inside the language of reality, there is a linguistic reality inside it, which is expressed through poetry. Yeah. So what is the meaning of this in the context of EFL learning? So poetry here helps the EFL learners to formulate language in a unique fashion. This is by Hanover, 2004. Unique language, personal and intimate self-context language makes poetry special to create authenticity of language. So when they produce the language with authenticity, they are also expressing their self-identity and their feeling as the representation of their meaning making, yeah, in association with the community, to respond to community and society in the real life. So the power of poetry is here to express voice of self-identity, to inquire and to discover more unheard self-voice. This is also supported by the finding of study that creates self-inquiry as poetic inquiry, a way to discover self and reflect self through poetry. This is by Fernandez Jimenez et al. In 2018. So in conclusion, I would like to say that poetry is the way to construct meaning of self-identity and to articulate language learning in a way that ordinary language cannot express. So the way the poets see the world from their point of view help the understanding of the world with language. Okay, and here are some of the references that I use in this presentation. Thank you very much for your kind attention. If you have any questions, we can have discussion later on. Thank you so much.